Welcome to Book Talk. Our next guest today is Abigail Adams.
You can give it up for Abigail.
Welcome, Abigail. How are you today?
Well, I am very good.
Are we ready for the interview? Abigail, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little town called Weymouth, Massachusetts.
Oh, wow. What was your childhood like?
When I was born, I was very small and I got very sick. I did not go to school. I had to stay inside most days. When I got older, I had my first birthday party with my friends. I got a sewing box and a real gold ring.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
I had a sister named Mary, a brother named Will, and they both went to school, even though Will was younger.
Who else was in your family?
Well, my grandfather Quincy, my grandmother Quincy, Mrs. Smith, my mom, Reverend Smith, my dad, Aunt Elizabeth, and Uncle Isaac.
And what was your education like?
Well, I did not go to school, but my father taught me how to read. Reading was one of my favorite hobbies.
Where else did you live?
I lived in Boston and Washington, D.C.
And why did you move to Washington, D.C.?
I moved there because I married John Adams, who was the first Vice President of the United States. He became the second president. In fact, I was the first lady to live in the White House.
Were you alive then during the Revolutionary War?
Yes, I was. In fact, I watched the Battle of Bunker Hill with my son, John Quincy Adams, who later became president.
What else are you famous for?
The letters I wrote to my husband while he was at the Continental Congress are famous because they give information about the history of life.
And can you tell me one more strange fact about you?
Well, I was the first lady to be the wife of one president and the mother of another.
Thank you, Abigail.
Hello, Mr. President. So, where and when were you born?
I was born in 1809 in a log cabin in Kentucky.
What was your childhood like?
I worked the farm with my dad, and it was very hard, but it made me very strong. In fact, I was perhaps the best wrestler in all of Indiana.
Will you tell us about your family?
I had a mom and dad. I also had an older sister named Sarah who died in childbirth, and a younger brother, Thomas Jr., who died in infancy. I also had one stepbrother and two stepsisters, John, Matilda, and Sarah. When I was a grown-up, I had 4 children named Robert, Thomas, Eddie, and Willie. And I married Mary Todd.
What did you do before you were president?
I was a lawyer in Illinois. This is where I learned how to make laws.
How did you get the nickname Honest Abe?
I always worked hard to pay people back when they loaned me money.
Why did you become president?
Because I wanted to stop slavery and free all slaves.
Will you tell us your greatest accomplishment?
Well, the Civil War ended and it stopped slavery, and that was my goal as president.
What was your greatest speech as president?
I gave a very, very famous speech called the Gettysburg Address. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to utter check. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause of which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Wow, that's a really good speech. So how did you die?
One night in 1865, I went to the theater with my wife, Mary Todd. An actor named John Wilkes Booth jumped off the stage and shot me. I survived the night, but died in the morning.
Where's the statue of you?
The Lincoln Memorial is in Washington, D.C. It is as big as a football field with a giant statue of me sitting in a chair in the front.
Well, that's all the time we have book talk. And anything else to say?
Nope.
Okay. And we're done. Welcome to Book Talk. Today we have our guest is Andrew Jackson. Please welcome Andrew Jackson. Where were you born?
I born in Waxahachie, China-born, Norton, South Carolina.
What did you like to do for fun?
I like to play tricks on my family.
How did you do in school?
Well, I didn't really like school, but I did like reading.
What about the Revolutionary War? What did you do?
Well, sadly, my mother died as well with 2 brothers. I didn't escape the war either, though. I was taken prisoner and got my face whacked out with a sword because I refused to shine officer's boots.
What did you do after the war?
Well, my uncle died and left me $1,500, but I lost it all in a bet. Then I became a lawyer in 1787.
What number president were you?
I was the 7th president.
What did you do when the War of 1812 broke out?
Well, I was a general in the war. Then the soldiers said I was tough. It was a hickory bench. I was called Old Hickory.
Did you fight in any other wars?
Yes, I fought in the Seminole War in Florida. The Seminole Indians refused to surrender even though they were losing.
When did you become president?
In 1824, I ran for president, but I lost. But I ran for president again in 1828, and I won.
Did you enjoy being president?
Mostly, but I had to in the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, and the Seminole Native American tribes to sell their land to the United States to please my people.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you.
Welcome to Book Talk.
Today we have Jane Goodall. So welcome Jane Goodall, everybody. Jane, what did you do for a living and why?
I'm a naturalist, which is someone who studies animal behavior. I became a naturalist because as a kid I liked studying neighborhood animals such as chickens, ants, and rabbits.
What was your life like?
It was hard because I grew up in London, England during World War II. Often my family didn't have enough food, even though soldiers sometimes gave us candy. But after a while, I was off to college. I got a degree on the job and went off to the wild to study chimpanzees. I learned a lot about them.
How long did you study chimps and where?
I studied chimpanzees for 4 amazing decades in Goodall National Park, which is in Kenya, Africa.
Do you have any good stories about chimps?
There is another naturalist named Mark who got attacked by a female chimp, and a male chimp named Old Man saved Mark's life. Here's the story. Old Man was lying around and he saw Mark being attacked by several female chimps. Old Man was friends with Mark, so he ran over to help Mark. He peeled off the chimps who were attacking, and that's how Old Man saved him.
How do you think chimps are treated, and what have you done to help?
Well, I think that they were treated really bad because they are used as test animals for research. They're put in tiny cages, often by themselves, with nothing to play with. And if you did this to a human being, they would go bananas. So do the chimps. I do lectures all around America to educate laboratories about treating chimps humanely.
What was the most dangerous thing that happened to you in Africa?
Once we were flying in an airplane, and we noticed some smoke coming out of the instrument panel. We were out in the middle of nowhere. The nearest landing strip was 45 minutes away. We kept flying, trying to distract ourselves from the smoking panel. Finally, we got there, but there was a herd of zebras on the landing strip. So the pilot tried to get to land in the jungle, and a wing clipped a tree, the plane smashed into the ground. The pilot jumped out and yelled, "Get out quickly, she's going up in flames." Thankfully, we got out safely, and the plane never did catch on fire.
Who was the funniest chimp that you've ever met?
Fifi, she was really smart. Here's the funny story. Once I had a banana hidden up my shirt. She knew it was there because she could smell it. She reached up into my shirt, pulled it out, and you can probably infer she ate it.
What was the coolest thing you learned about chimps?
That they can make tools. For example, one chimp made a hunting tool termites. You used a stick and stuck it in a termite hole, pulled it out, licked it, and had a little termite soup.
What are some similarities between humans and chimpanzees?
1 is we both can use tools. 2 is we both have warning calls. 3 is we both fight and play. 4 is we stay with our families until we are adults.
What is the most important thing that people should know about chimps?
The chimpanzees are in danger from many things. They are being hunted in the jungles for babies and taken from their mothers and sold to zoos, circuses, and medical research laboratories. People are chopping down the jungles and rainforests, and pretty soon the chimps will have nowhere to live. I would like everyone to know how much important it is to do your part and take care of these wonderful animals, that they are so much like ourselves.
And that is Book Talk, everybody.